Good evening, and welcome to another edition of COPS, Conversations on Public Safety. We're in a new location today, and we're on a remote broadcast, taping, because we're talking about something that really is controlled away from your home, but very much controlled by the alarm company. Home alarms and commercial alarms today are paramount when you think about security. You have to consider the type of alarm, the cost of the alarm system for your needs, and the effectiveness of that alarm. You have to be willing to look into the alarm company that you're dealing with. And we've selected for this program one of the leading companies in the North Shore area, the alarm company known as Wayne Alarm Company, based here in Lynn, where we are coming to you from. And the president of that company, Mr. Ralph Sevenor, is here with us to explain to us how this business operates today in this very high-tech field of security. Also, you'll meet in a few moments his vice president, general manager, Paul Silva, who will point out some of the needs and differences in the alarm systems themselves. So, Ralph, let me first thank you for letting us in
Thanks for coming down, Dave. Appreciate it.
And we certainly have a lot to learn about alarms as lay people, and what
we'll do is we'll take a tour of the whole central station and show you how it's done, and we can go over various alarm systems.
Okay, well, we're going to do that, and we're going to take a real hard look at and ask some real firm questions about alarm systems, and are they really effective? Are they really worth the expense in your home or business? And we're going to get started with that. We're going to take a very short walk, and we'll be with Mr. Silva, who will point out to us one of the alarm demonstrator models that he uses in his business of selling the system, and point out some of the good points and the perhaps weaker points of the systems that are available today. And we're going to do that in just a moment.
There's just nothing like the great outdoors.
It's a corner of America, a picture from our past. It's quiet towns and rolling hills where time slows down at last.
The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America. The spirit of the red, white, and blue. The spirit of Massachusetts is the spirit of America. The spirit that we want to share with you.
For your free Massachusetts vacation kit, call 1-800-624-MASS.
We're over at the office where Paul Silva works out of, and he has with us one of these modular, salesman kits, I guess, Paul. Demo kit. Mm-hmm. And it looks rather complicated. Is it really that complicated?
Well, the electronics are complicated, but homeowners don't see that part of it. It's actually very simple to use. It's usually comprised of different components, your digital keypad that turns the alarm system on and off. Oftentimes you'll have some sort of internal protection, which is sometimes an infrared motion detector. And generally there's a perimeter protection in the house, which is made up of door and/or window contacts. To operate the alarm, you simply observe a status light. If it's solid green, it means everything is closed that is protected. And you just put your code in, and you'll get a red light and you can leave. There's usually a delay of around 30 seconds to leave.
What's the purpose of the delay in the system itself?
The delay is basically made for the convenience of the homeowner. It allows them to come in and, without rushing, turn the alarm system off. The alarm will remind them when they walk in that the alarm system is on. Gives them plenty of time to turn it off. It also gives them time to leave. And it keeps the disarm device out of the weather and out of the possible hands of an intruder.
Uh-huh. Is there an average time, say 30 seconds or 90 seconds?
Fortunately, today we can pretty much make the delay times different for exit and entry. Some people might want more time to leave and less time to come in. So we sometimes can give 60 seconds up to 60 seconds to leave and 30 seconds when they come in. And when you do enter, you can hear a sound go off when you open the door. That's what you hear. You just put your code in, and that shuts off the alarm. It's as simple as that.
And this alarm, now, is this a hardwire system, or what other types are there? What types of alarms would you operate this system with?
Well, this is a hardwire system. It's used in probably 95% of our installations. Where hardwiring is not possible if the house is built on a slab or there's no crawl spaces above or below then we would be using a wireless system. There are different kinds of wireless systems, but in general it uses radio frequency transmitters to send the signal from the device that's detecting the intrusion to a main control which causes the alarm to go off. It works the same way as wires do, but without the wires.
Okay, there is a distinct advantage, I would think, of having a wireless system over a hardwire system.
There is no real advantage to having one over the other. It all depends on the home. The advantage is basically in the amount of destruction that might be necessary. If somebody insisted on a hardwire system in a house that was, as I said before, had no crawl space, then there would be an awful lot of damage done to the house. It's just a question of which is easier to do for the homeowner. They're both equally effective.
Would you, for example, let's take an average home. Let's say that the average home in Marblehead, for example, may be a 2-story home with perhaps 4 bedrooms on the second floor and a bathroom and the living quarters down below. What would be the needs for an alarm system in a home such as that? Would you want to focus on the second floor at all?
That's a good typical alarm installation that we would do. Basically, the second floor, without giving away any secrets, is protected pretty much according to the wishes of the homeowner. If they have a strong feeling that someone's going to come in on the second floor, then we will protect access up at the second floor. If the emphasis is on the first floor, in other words, there are a lot of easy ways to get in the first floor of the basement, then obviously we would spend most of our time down there. I wouldn't want to say, you know, exactly how we do anything. It's depending on the homeowner entirely. Some people, we've had people who have been paranoid that someone would climb up a 30-foot tree and climb in their third-floor window. And it took a long time to calm her down and say, you know, that's not really going to happen.
Yeah.
So you try to spend the homeowner's money very wisely. You try to say, well, the most cost-effective way to install an alarm system is this: protect all the openings as much as possible. It depends on whether or not they have pets. If they don't have pets, then you try to use an infrared detector like this because it can protect access from a dozen windows. Contacting a dozen windows could be a very expensive proposition. Installing a motion detector will give you equally effective protection for a lot less money.
Now, you mentioned the red sensor. Is this just a beam that sort of goes across an area?
Actually, I'm not technically oriented enough to tell you exactly how it works, but I can tell you what it looks for. It looks for infrared energy or thermal change. When you stand still, you become part of the background. When you move, your temperature is different in relation to the new background that you're in, so to speak. It's looking for a plus and minus factor also. You can be colder than the environment that you're in. It's a very reliable way to protect property. In the older alarm systems that we did, we had to be very careful using ultrasonics because they were an active device that sent out sound waves, and many things could interfere with those sound waves, causing the alarm to go off. These infrareds are extremely reliable. Our false alarm rate is practically nil now, having used these in homes.
Regardless of the alarm in the house itself, it seems that we get an awful lot of calls from the neighbors on outside alarm systems that are ringing outside.
Absolutely.
At early morning hours or late evening hours or just for a long period of time. What is your recommendation in this type of a situation? Do you recommend outside sirens for every installation? Do you recommend the neighbors have some control over it, or how do you handle it?
The recommendation is basically, again, it goes back to the homeowner. What do they want? What do they expect this alarm to do for them? Realistically, an inside alarm will do the job for you. Having an outside siren does one thing. If the alarm is tripped by a burglar and it's timed to go off in 15 minutes or so, that means that the police, when they come up there, will not have to guess exactly where they're going to. The siren will alert them to the location. That's the important thing to us. From a homeowner standpoint, they might feel that the neighbors will hear it and see him or do something about it in that respect. But the alarm system basically is designed to scare an intruder out of the house, and if tied into our central station, it's designed to summon the police and send them there. The alarms that you're talking about, which make up the majority of the alarms, which are false alarms, fortunately now it's turned out to be primarily subscriber error. They'll get up in the morning and they'll open a door that has a contact on it without remembering to turn the alarm off, and they'll set it off, and usually they reset it within a matter of a minute or so. The new electronic controls on these allow you to time the amount of time the siren goes off. You don't have to have it going on for 2 days. it will scare an intruder away within the first minute, of course. So having it run for 15 minutes is plenty long enough. Most of our installations don't run that long if they're monitored. If they're monitored, it's always 15 minutes. And then it shuts off and resets by itself.
So the average homeowner, it takes no special training to operate this system. The average homeowner could do it on maybe an hour's lesson from you, perhaps?
Usually what I do is if someone has a 5-year-old in the house, I show them first, and I let them show the owners. Because it's easy for them. But most homeowners don't have much of a problem learning it. All they have to do is we have to spend time with them. Let them use it, let them make the mistakes in front of us and say, this is what you did wrong. As long as they use it in front of us, they'll make all the mistakes, we'll make them make all the mistakes, and they'll say, oh, okay, now I understand. Telling somebody, showing them in writing does not do the job. We have to make them use it, make the mistakes, and make the alarm go off, let them hear it. And then say, it's not a monster, it's not going to bite you, it's there to protect you. This is what you do if you make a mistake, you simply put the code in and shut it off.
Now, in the commercial side of alarms, how would you handle a business with numerous employees and maybe a constant changeover of employees? What does your company do? What does the Wayne Alarm Company do with that situation of training people or retraining, or maybe there's just people that have limited access to the system in the first place?
That's a good question. Fortunately, the electronics are making it easier and easier for us today. It's possible today with a typical commercial system to have up to 8 different user codes that are identifiable here at the central station. So if you happen to be user 1, I'd give you 1, 2, 3 for a code. I'm user 2, I'd be 3, 4, 5. You go in at 2 o'clock in the morning and punch in 1, 2, 3, you're sending a signal to us that user number 1 opened the business up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Now, if you're the owner, you can do that anytime you want. But the real owner, if there is a different person who's the owner, he sees a written report at the end of the month telling him that he's going to question why you're going in there at 2 o'clock in the morning. The ability of the owner of the business to eliminate a code user is a matter of seconds to do. He can eliminate that person who's unreliable, who's been fired or whatever. And you can limit access simply by telling the central station, what do you want to do if you see this person come in, user 3 through 8? 1 and 2 can go in anytime they want, but 3 through 8, you must, we'll call up and ask for an ID from them. Or we'll call the owner and say somebody's in the building right now that doesn't belong there.
Most of the installations today, we're getting away from the old hardware where a key operation is necessary. Most of it's all digital. Is it safe to say that all the new installations are digital?
It's very rare now to see a key installation, very rare.
Do you find that there are more false alarms with the digital than with the key? Or then maybe they forget the number, you know?
Well, it doesn't happen very often. The only time someone would forget a number if they had a summer home and they went to it once a year. That's when we'd see a false alarm because they forgot the number. And they'll call us up and say, what's my number? Well, sorry, we'll send a serviceman out to reset it for you if you need, but it will shut itself off after a while. And you can think about what your number is, but that very rarely happens. As far as there being a difference between key and digital, the digital has been so overwhelming that you can't compare one to the other now as a cause of a false alarm. A key is not the cause of a false alarm, and digital is not the cause. It's always the subscriber. If they punch in a wrong number and you make a mistake by punching in a wrong number because they feel rushed, then they can cause a false alarm. But it can be reset immediately.
Okay. By them?
By them.
By them right there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you, Paul. That has explained quite a bit, and we're going to take another in-depth view of the central station. We've related here to the central station quite extensively with Paul, and we're going to get back with Ralph Severnor, the president of this company. He's going to take us down to the central station, and we'll see just what's going on down there and how high-tech this business of alarms and get that burglar is. So you stay with us, and we'll be right back with the central station view of your alarm.
That's it. I'm history. End of the road.
You can't quit, Vince. No crash dummy takes out a utility pole like you do.
Larry, for years I've been proving how safety belts save lives, but nobody's listening.
Sure they are.
Yeah, that's why thousands die in car accidents every year. I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall.
Come on, Vince. Tomorrow's the big day. 2 compacts. Head on.
High speed?
Could save a life.
No, I'll be there.
Yeah.
You could learn a lot from a dummy. Buckle your safety belt.
Well, here at the central station, we're going to take a look at some of the real response people and machinery and technology that answers your alarm when it goes off. This is where the alarm is first recorded and then forwarded to the law enforcement agencies in your community. And also, we're here back again with Ralph. And Ralph, I noticed that there are no key operations on these doors, so rather combination locks. Well, maybe you can explain a little bit about that.
We have to have a lot of security to, of course, protect the customers, the subscribers that we have. And access is through a series of codes. Every operator has their own code number. Those code numbers are changed on a regular basis. And we use electromagnets that holds up to 3,500 pounds of force. All the windows to the central station, as a matter of fact, have Lexan 2. Thanks to one of the local law enforcement, that's a 38 at 2 feet, and you see it didn't penetrate at all. And we have to be very careful as far as on security. And we'll go in now, and I'll show you basically the whole operation of the central station.
Okay. Follow us this way.
This is basically the central station. It's a separate building. Although it's within our building, it is a separate building. And the walls are 18 inches poured concrete, 6-inch steel rod every 6 inches, and 7 inches of ceiling concrete. We have our own self-sufficient area. We have our own kitchen area here. We have our own bathroom area in just this area. And these are two of our operators right here, Arlene and Sandy. And we normally keep 2 operators on to respond. We also keep a serviceman on for emergency calls in the middle of the night. All the terminals all the alarms come through terminals, and people, when they call, it's kind of interesting because they think it's a matter of lights and boards, and they call up and they say, are we clear? Is our light off or is our meter off? And technology just in the past few years has really changed. Intrinsically, we protect ourselves. We record everything 24 hours a day, all the openings and doors of the central station. And we use a military time, which I think the police departments also use, correct?
Yes, that's right.
And so we have to record both times, both military and civilian. Over in this area right here is our main alarm receivers. Everything basically comes through this alarm receiver here, and this unit is a backup unit. We have to take an emergency situation and treat it as a normal situation. So we have to be able to automatically turn a second receiver on, and basically they are automatic devices. They are self-sufficient. Everything is emergency lighting in this area. And why don't I take you in the back and show you that, and then we can actually show you how some alarms look when they're coming through.
Well, maybe before we go in there,
Sure.
I'm curious. I'm standing here looking at this, and you have perhaps 1,500 customers or so, probably more than that. But this is just one, basically, small unit. This is capable of covering all of those alarms?
This unit is capable of handling 18,000 accounts. Years ago, to handle 500 accounts, you'd need a room that was 70 feet long. It was the old days of having boards with lights and meters. And just to accept signals was a major process. Today, through the microprocessors and the chips and the large-scale integration, VLSIs, technology in the past 2 years is awesome. It's come a long way. So, yes, now we can have that type of capability out of here.
How does that affect the cost of the alarm installation?
Well, certainly alarm installations have actually come down. Labor costs have gone up, and technology costs have, although the technology has gone sky high, the cost of the electronics has gone down. So it's probably cheaper now on an alarm system than it was years and years ago.
Now, I asked Paul earlier the cost factor in an average installation, residential. What would that be? Do you have any ballpark figure on that?
It's similar to a car. Do you want air conditioning? Do you want power steering? Do you want power brakes? But normally it's in the area of anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000, with the average being about $1,500.
And is there a monthly fee also?
If it is connected to Central Station for monitoring, there is a monthly fee, correct.
Okay, so, well, why would you not want Central Station?
Well, they say most of the police chiefs do agree. They did a survey recently. I think 58% of them agree that without Central Station, it's like having nothing. So
you're depending 100% on the neighbors hearing it.
Precisely. You can have a situation where, and sometimes people in an area or neighborhood say their neighbors are very good, and that can be very well true, but unfortunately sometimes neighbors do travel and they go places, and you can't just depend upon the external noise. The whole idea on any type of security system is to get them out as quickly as possible. On your end, you want to catch them. On our end, we want to alert you and alert the people inside the premise that there is something going on there, that there is a possible intrusion going on. There is an unauthorized person in the premise. And so we look at it from two different aspects. Our aspect is to, in some respects, the same as yours, of course, to protect the people. But in our respect, we care about also getting them out of there as quickly as possible.
Let's take, for example, now, the residential or commercial alarm goes off at the site, your customer's site. It comes in here. How does it get here? What do you do with it?
Well, there are a couple of ways. The main way an alarm is transmitted is by telephone lines. It comes over existing telephone lines or direct telephone lines. And in the case of direct telephone lines, if someone tries to circumvent it by cutting the line or bypassing it, the alarm will sound, we'll get a signal on it. And talking about this right here, which is called digital communication technology, which is relatively new, it comes in on this device called a receiver. And the receiver has an output which goes into a computer, an automation system. And the reason why we automate it is we literally take hundreds and hundreds of signals in a day, opening signals, closing signals when a customer opens, talking commercially. And we have to be very careful to disseminate that information, what's critical information versus what's non-critical information. Years ago, the problem is a signal was a signal. Now with automation, with computerization, we can tell an emergency signal and we can prioritize signals. So it's not a situation where we're better trained. We certainly hope we're very trained, we're well trained. It's a situation that technology is caught up with alarms or with security. So it comes into here, and we also, even though we are totally automated, we run printers, direct printers, off of these machines. And the reason for that is in case we ever went down on our automation system, we could also fall back on a manual system like they used to do years ago. And what we're going to do is we're going to go over to a terminal. I'm going to show you Arlene, who's also a dispatcher, and we're going to simulate a signal. Which we entered in there previously just for sample purposes. And we'll show you how an alarm actually comes up and how it looks. So let's go over to a terminal.
Arlene seems to have one of the better jobs in this place. She's been sitting in this chair since we've been here. Arlene, what is your job here?
Monitoring alarms.
Monitoring alarms? And just how do we do that? I don't know if you've got a monitor in front of you. Is something happening here now?
Right now we're getting a hold-up alarm, and you push F1, and it opens your screen and brings you all the information that you need to know.
The advantage, of course, of this is no longer is it a situation of someone has to enter in numbers or digits. It comes up right on a screen. And this main screen right here is called a priority screen, and it tells you everything that's going on. It's called a traffic menu screen. Of course, it's the red stripe indicating a hold-up alarm, a message, and an operator can go right into it. And the first thing an operator is trained to do is look at any comments. For instance, medical emergency, always go to the second floor, whatever it may be. To speed things up, it gives you zone information, contraband equipment room. Now, in a residential installation, normal procedure we have is to call the subscriber premise. Part of our job, of course, is to cancel false alarms. If it's an alarm due to a customer, we want to try to abort it before we send the police department or the fire department. In this situation, it's a hold-up alarm or a contraband emergency. And an operator can automatically dial the subscriber premise, or they can dial the Marblehead Police. In that case, all they do is they hit one button, and the computer actually dials the number. Now, all this information is logged in as far as on tape.
Hi, this is Wayne Alarm calling.
Hi.
I'm calling to notify an alarm on Jerry Street in Marblehead.
Right.
We'll notify. This is operator 14.
Beg your pardon?
This is operator 14, and we'll notify.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what does that do now?
What the next procedure is they would enter a yes or a no, whatever their situation is, and they would go down in the call list. And it would tell them the first to notify, second to notify, and third to notify. In this case, for instance, say it was a false alarm, they could enter in any information or dispatch to police or whatever it may be.
Well, listen, we're going to get out of the girls' way here. They're very busy conducting their business for you.
Right.
And your business. We're going to just get back together with Ralph and share maybe a few more questions, bring up a couple more points of importance to you. As you look around your house, do you need an alarm? If you have an alarm, is it reliable? We'll be right back. Ralph, we've certainly seen a lot of the ins and outs of the alarm business, and I think better understand now what goes on when we see an alarm installed in a home or business. But let me ask you something. There are standards, I'm sure, and your company is under the Underwriters Laboratories, UL.
Laboratories, correct.
And yeah, I think you're one of the very few in this area that are.
There are some, sure.
And what I've seen, it almost seems like you've gone beyond the standards. Why is that?
When people come in, they see all of the sophistication that goes on. It's funny because sometimes when someone thinks an alarm is being dispatched, they portray it as a little receiver being in someone's bedroom and it wakes them up in the middle of the night, or it takes 5 or 10 minutes to dispatch a signal. The reason why is we literally protect billions of dollars worth of property here. We have accounts all over. But we protect something much greater than that, much more valuable, and that's human life, on hold-up signals, on fire alarm signals, and that's why a central station, any central station for that matter that's usually UL listed, takes that interest. It is a big responsibility, and we take it very seriously.
And as far as someone interested, what would your basic recommendation be to a homeowner, let's say, wishing to get an installation of an alarm system today? If they were to call you, what would be primarily your course of production in getting that alarm to them?
Is time factor, you're saying?
Yeah.
Time factor is anywhere from 1 week to 3 weeks.
Uh-huh.
Right.
And $1,000 to $2,000 depending
Correct.
on
That's
what
the average price. I've seen them up to $16,000. And so, as I say, it's like a car almost. The whole thing with a security system, a residential security system, like I said earlier, is you've got to make it as easy as possible to operate for everyone to use, A, and B is you have to make sure that you've got an adequate amount of protection. Because if you don't have a security system that's going to protect you, you might as well have nothing.
One final
sometimes
question.
A situation of having a feeling of security, not having the security, is worse.
Yeah. One final thought that comes to mind is that people who get an alarm system, they do tend to put a lot of faith in that. Do you think that the alarm system is simply one more ingredient in protecting oneself rather than the ultimate?
I think a security system, an electronic security system, is the last means of defense. I'm an advocate, for instance, of lights, I'm an advocate of keeping a radio on a timer, of having neighbors look in the area. An alarm should not be your primary means of defense. It should be your last means of defense. And it's not a panacea. It doesn't do it all. But it certainly is a good device.
Ralph, I want to thank you very much for having us through the building here, and it's been very educational for me, and I'm sure the viewers as well. And we're going to come back next month's program, as we've just hinted to you, that there are other things you can do to protect yourself in your home or in your business without the aid of electronics. There are mechanical things that you can do as well, which are cost-effective and just enough to maybe keep a burglar from breaking in too easily. We're going to look at those things next month on Cops, For Cops, and MHTV9. I'm Dave Millett. So long.